Suicide can have a devastating impact. The shock and grief goes well beyond family and friends and can ripple throughout the entire community, affecting coworkers, neighbors, schools, and faith communities. The latest data available from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention indicates that more than 38,000 suicide deaths were reported in the U.S. in 2010, 1,547 in New York State alone. Recently, we had the opportunity to sit down with Mary Ann Reed to discuss how funeral directors can assist a grieving family after suicide loss. In addition to her role at the New York State Funeral Directors Association, Mary Ann joined the Capital Region chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention in 2008 after the loss of her own brother from suicide.
I can think back to when my family and we were struggling and we felt that no one else understood. And I often share the story, and it sounds cliche, but it wasn't until I heard about or met another sister who had also lost a brother to suicide that I truly felt that a burden was lifted off my shoulders. So sometimes, even though people are getting professional support, and even though the casseroles are coming, and even though the cards and other support systems are there, sometimes it really takes someone else who's walked in these shoes to really get the support that they need.
According to Mary Ann, funeral directors play a vital and powerful role in the immediate aftermath of suicide. Mary Ann shared some best tips for funeral directors assisting a family grieving from a suicide loss.
So many funeral directors have shared that they have libraries that they lend out books, so just some books relating to suicide loss as well.
Do you know someone who is struggling?
I know I've received phone calls from funeral directors that will call here asking for resources on what to do if they think that someone has just come in to plan their own funeral because they're going to go home and take their own life.
The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is a 24-hour, toll-free confidential hotline available to anyone in suicidal crisis or emotional distress. By dialing 1-800-273-TALK, the call is routed to the nearest crisis center in their national network of more than 150 crisis centers.
So I encourage everyone, funeral directors, professionals of any sort, to have the suicide prevention hotline number programmed in their phone, because we never know, whether it be in our professional life or in our personal life.
Mary Ann has introduced Connect at the New York State Funeral Directors Association, a suicide postvention training program for professionals who may respond to a death by suicide. This Connect program is the first such suicide postvention training provided to funeral directors in the United States.
But specifically for funeral directors, we know that funeral directors are the first, oftentimes one of the first people that a family comes into contact with after losing someone to suicide. So by funeral directors knowing what community resources are available, also being familiar talking about that and providing support to someone, it can really be helpful. It's a 4-hour program approved by the New York State Bureau of Funeral Directing for 4 CE credits, and it has been very well received by funeral directors across the state.
To learn about upcoming Connect trainings, visit nysfda.org.